next edition of Tyranid Tactica. Today, as you can probably tell by what we're looking at here, we're going to talk about flying monstrous creatures and how to use them to their most effective role on the table. So the two I got here is the Hive Crone, which is our fast attack flyer. We do have the Harpy as well, but I currently don't have one. And honestly, by the stats and how the Crone has performed, I prefer that one. So we also have the Hive Tyrant, who's got the 2 Brain Leech Devourers and wings, and this is all taken from our 1500 point list that we've been doing in the previous videos. So we're just following off that, and we're going to continue through with the series here and just look at different aspects of this 1500 point list and go over them kind of individually, so you kind of know how to use this list. But a lot of this information can definitely be transferred over to whatever list you're currently building for yourself. So the things we're going to look at today is how to use them on the table, where to deploy them, and what they're best effective against. So we're going to go ahead and look at a sample table we have set up here, and then we're just going to go over the couple of different deployments and kind of how you should use them. So let's take a look at the table now. Alright everyone, so here's the sample table we're going to take a look at. So taking a look at this table, we can kind of see that there's a fair bit of runes on the table, as well as jungle, which provides area terrain, which is actually one of the biggest things you want to keep in mind when using your flying monstrous creatures. A lot of people forget that flying monstrous creatures, even though they can be swooping, they still do benefit from the effects of area terrain, and also for runes as well, or whatever other terrain might be on the table that they can get cover from, including intervening models, even though they're swooping. I know it's kind of ridiculous, but it's the way the rules are written. So looking at this table, we're going to we'll say Dawn of War first, and see how to deploy the Crone and the Hive Tyrant. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy them. We'll say they're going to deploy along this side. It says Dawn of War is from here to here. So we're going to deploy them, and I'll show you why I did that, and then how I personally would move them up the table. Okay, so both units have been deployed. I know there's no other armies deployed on the other side, but let's keep in mind the Elder list from my 1500 point deployment tactica video, which is the previous one in the series. So let's keep it in mind that that's what we're playing against here. So we can see we got the Crone deployed on the right end over here, and then the Flying Hive Tyrant here. Now the reason I deployed them like that, and generally there would be more if your Tyranid force kind of in the middle here, but I didn't have time to set them all up. So we're just going to talk about the flying monstrous creatures individually. So the main goal with a flying monstrous creature is you want them to go up the flanks. So you'd want to use one over here, then one over here, because the big thing you want to do is put pressure into the both sides of the opponent's deployment zone, because you want to kind of force them into the middle sections, and where the rest of your Tyranid swarm can go up and kind of just pinch them there. So your flying monster creatures are obviously one of the best units that we have in the Tyranid Codex in terms of effectiveness, and probably going to be pretty high on the target priority list for your opponent. So you can see the way I deployed them here is, I didn't say if I had first turn or not, but I deployed them the way I did. So the Hive Tyrant is going to benefit from the runes there in case any shots come at him. Just say I don't get first turn. And over here we can see the Crone. He's kind of hard to hide, but his base is down into the bottom floor of the runes there, which does count as area terrain, and he is somewhat covered by the runes here, depending on where the shots are going to be coming from. So you gotta do what you can to keep him hidden. So having these guys deploy like that is one option to go with the flying monstrous creature. So this is one of the do's. I'm going to show you the don'ts in a second. And another option would be to run them kind of together. So for example, we could grab Mr. Hive Tyrant right here. He'd fly all the way over here. Say we could deploy him right in about there. So he's kind of protected by the runes and the rocks there, so he's fairly covered. And you can also put in, say, if you had some Turbagon or something block him here. Now the strategy behind this is just have them both go up the same flank, and keeping in mind this is going to be based on how you deploy the rest of your army, because you don't want to leave your flank unprotected over here, not much hitting power, because again, we're keeping in mind that we're playing Eldar, who are quick. So if I put too much of my units over here, he can easily counter by coming around this side and leaving me kind of stuck in this area, because Tyranids they're fast, but not compared to Eldar. They're pretty slow. So the thoughts over here is you'd have the Hive Tyrant and Crone go up here, using the rocks here and also those cans back there to kind of fly them up. The big thing with them is you want to kind of get positioning for turn 3 is going to be the big hitter, or even turn 2 depending on what your opponent does. So turn 1 you kind of want to set up, so if we got our opponent, we'll say just kind of generally deployed down here, nothing focused in one area. So you'd want to send these guys up this way, so you want to kind of have the crone maybe go first there, try and get the rocks to block him, and have the high tire flying behind him and kind of set it up. So that way you can put pressure on the middle area over here and kind of flank around. And by putting them together too, it gives your opponent a hard choice of who to shoot at. Because generally, say if your opponent's got his forces deployed through it here, and it's not focused on one side, he's kind of got them balanced along here, he's only probably going to have enough shots to really fire at one of these guys, or maybe down one of them, or if you're lucky he can survive, and then you got the other guy right there as well. So it gives your opponent a hard time to choose who to shoot at, and that's the big thing you want with Tyranids. You want your opponent to get frazzled and overwhelmed, because that's really the whole goal of the Tyranid army. So if you can achieve that, you're doing your job. So the big don'ts for flying monstrous creatures would be the following. So we're going to deploy these guys in a different spot. So this guy's going to come here, we'll say. Let's see. The crone. Let's go to join him over here. So the big thing with this, looking at this table, is there's a lot of firing lanes from here, stepping over, and through here, and somewhat through there, depending on the angle. But yeah, so with that, you're leaving your flying monstrous creatures pretty vulnerable, and especially if you don't get first turn, they can be probably killed first turn, even though they're in area terrain. Depending on how you're rolling, can really impact it. And the big thing with deploying in the middle here is your only real options to kind of get to your opponent would be to fly these areas. Like, you could go over this way, but I mean, really, if you're doing that, why wouldn't you just start deployed right there, move up the flanks, right? So it's kind of a wasted movement. And especially too, if say we're going to take my Flyrant, fly him up into here. Now, being that he's a pretty big model, he's right in the middle of the board, so obviously target priority is kind of just going to jump right to him, and especially with Eldar with their speed, as I've mentioned, pretty much everyone from here is going to be able to shoot the Flyrant. And with the rest of your Tyranid force, as I've mentioned in other videos, it's just that first turn setup army, so you're going to have them kind of going up. And if they just down the Flyrant, there goes your offensive force to put the pressure to move your opponent towards the rest of your Tyranid swarm. So that's the trouble with sending them straight up like that, because I mean, with the crone, he could go, say, we want to send him, he's going to come up this way and kind of put his base into that area terrain there. We'll say it's 24 inches, but close enough. So, and having him there, he's again really open and vulnerable to people on this side, and then you can really only go over this way, so your threat range diminishes as compared to, say, when we had the crone. I'll just grab him over on this side, who could have went up, say, right up to here. Now he has the entire board to come flying down this way, and guarantee there'll be a fair amount of opponents here, and that way can push your opponent over this way and push them into other Tyranid units that you have. Especially too, if we're going with the list we have from the previous video, we got say that outflanking Turbogon, putting the pressure here. We'll even grab him just for visual representation. So if he's come flying up too, we got these two big guys here. You can see he's kind of protected in this area by the runes, and over that way as well. So he's fairly protected. Now the only real area that can get him be right in there. But now if you're playing your cards right, you could say have a Tyranofex or Carnifexes come charging it this way to put the pressure to kind of keep things out of that zone, so it's more of a kill zone, keep these guys alive. And by putting these guys up this flank, it kind of forces your opponent to either come charging at them to get them and walk right into the trap of the Carnifexes or Tyranofex, whatever you're running, up this way, And then if you're lucky too, that Turbigon's going to come crawling right in here too. So now he's going to have a hard choice. Do I shoot the 2 flying monstrous creatures who are about to come flying in my face? Or am I going to let this Turbigon, say, come and steal my backfield objective? Or maybe the objective's over there. So the big thing with Tyranids is pressure. So that's how to use the flying monstrous creatures to their best advantage. And also, if you got Venomthropes too, you always want to keep these guys in cover, as I mentioned. So if you can, you want to jump from area terrain to area terrain, or even into runes. So for example, this guy here, we flew him, we'll go around here. So we fly him up this way, keeping him in area terrain, and say we got a, say we got him there, and then he has a target right there, say some Warwalkers or whatever might be there. I don't know. We'll say Warwalkers because it's definitely a target that he could easily take down and would be a prime target for him to hunt down. So if you got him there too, you can move your Venomthropes up, run them up, and hopefully keep him in the Shrouded Bubble, and then you got the area terrain there. So he's gonna have a 3-up save no matter what, aside from the ignore cover. But most things, for example, again in the Elder Lizard plane, that ignore cover don't have any AP. So you're basically getting your 3-up no matter what. Or if you even got him, say, in here, I know you're not supposed to really go up the gut too often, but that kind of protects him, and say you get the Venomthrope to come up and kind of give him that nice 2+ save. Now, I know in some situations it might be smarter to go up the gut if you got your opponent here and kind of here, and maybe send him up to try and focus the side down. Then maybe have the Crone come up this way to kind of put pressure on them, so the Hive Tyrant doesn't get the full force of this end and that end. There are times where that's okay, but generally you want to send these guys out flanks, because you don't want the whole opponent's deployment just dumping into your flying monster creature turn 1 and just having them off the board, as you've seen happen to my Flyrant several times. Luck hopefully will be with you. But anyway, so that's the big thing with flying monstrous creatures. You want to send them up flanks, and you want to force your opponent's hand, so the rest of your Tyranid force coming at the middle or outflanking on these sides, and that way you can kind of force the opponent down, get into close combat if you want, or just blow those vehicles up, get the effects in there, terrain effects or current effects, whatever you got charged up the table really. Or even the Turbigon if you're running them up here and you got the gaunts coming in the side of the prime, what have you. So all depends on what your strategies are with your list, but going with this 1500 point list from the previous video, this is kind of what we'd stick with, and kind of this would be my thoughts going into the game. Now it varies from table to table. Like for example, we're going to grab the Crone. He's going to come flying over here. Say we're on this table and we're doing hammer and anvil. Again, the general idea is you want to stick to terrain. So we're on this side, so deploying this guy again, you want to deploy them on the flanks and decide what your best route is as well. So if you want to keep this guy covered and get set up for turn 1, maybe you deploy him somewhere like maybe even right up here, so that way he's covered from this end. Sorry, give you a better look. So he's covered from this end, then this end here, maybe you could put some gargoyles or something juicy right there, that if he doesn't shoot, it's going to be in his face right there. So you want to give him a hard time with target priority, and again you want to keep them jumping from terrain to terrain, terrain to terrain. And if you're lucky you might get onslaught, so you could even fly the Crone up over this way, so maybe your opponent's forces over there more, because those rooms are a bit more protecting from this side. And your Crone kind of can get the rune save from there. And if you don't have any targets or anything, you could even 2d6 run him up and maybe find the best spot for him. So again, that's really how you'd play from table to table. And the same thing goes for different deployment styles too. Like if it's hammer and anvil, same thing, you want to send them out the flanks, use area terrain to your advantage, and so forth. And the one last thing I'm going to show you, which is, it can be a bit dirty of a trick. I haven't really done it myself, but it's actually rather tricky. So Say we got Vanguard Strike deployment. Now the big thing a lot of people forget is Vanguard Strike deployment. This here, and we're going to say I'm in this corner, my opponent's here. So again, this here is my deployment edge, not right up to wherever it stops. So what you can do is turn 1, send him off the board, then turn 2. Guess who comes flying in from right here? Right up into your deployment zone, and maybe even vector striking something flanking around this way, or even the flyer can come in this way and get some rear shots off. So that's another thing to keep in mind when playing Vanguard Strike, because you do have this full table edge, but also keep in mind your opponent's flyers can do that too, so they can come right at you there too, so keep that in mind. But yeah, that's everything that I usually take in consideration when running my flying monstrous creatures. I hope this gives you some ideas how to run your own, and if you're having trouble with some of them, it helps bring some light to things. And if I missed anything, feel free to toss it in the comments, or if you feel there's something else important that you do with your flying monstrous creatures personally and I left it out, feel free to toss it in the comments, and hopefully we can help some people get some ideas, or even help me get some more ideas as well when playing my Tyranids. So I hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more Tyranid Tactica. I've been kind of slow at getting these out, but I've been swamped with work and some other things recently, but I had time to get this one in today because I figured it was a bit overdue. So got some other Tactica videos planned, and we definitely will be going this list more in detail in the future with the 1500 point list we selected from the previous videos. And also too, I think I'm going to start doing some videos when battling particular armies, so it'll be kind of a not 100% in depth, but a small Tactica video, say fighting Eldar, fighting Dark Eldar, fighting Astra Militarum, Necrons, Tau, and Space Marines, which are the armies that I have played. I haven't really played Chaos too much, but I hope maybe I'll travel to my Games Workshop store and get some more games in against them. But stay tuned definitely for more Tactica videos, and if there's anything you personally would like my opinion on, or to see a Tactica video about, feel free to toss it in the comments or fire me off a message. I'd be glad to help. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe, share this video, and happy wargaming.